Okay. So this talk is about an initiative that is being born in Brazil recently, and a great part of it is motivated by the talks that have been started 1 year ago or a bit more on the Open Universe initiative. It's particularly an initiative that's been done in collaboration with Paulo Giomi. So what is the BSDC? And it's a novel data center initiative in Brazil, which is developed under the ICRANET framework and led by Brazilian scientists in collaboration with this ASI group. So it is built from the start over a model for a data center which is transparent, transparent in the way that has been proposed here in the Open Universe initiative. So it is a data center that wants to look already from the start to the things that we are discussing in these days. And the particular importance of it for Brazil is the fact that it responds to a necessity that we have, in the sense that Brazil lacks any form of integrated data policy or data structure for astronomy. And so the discussions that have been ongoing have been kind of leading towards some organization of the community in this sense, even community that has been already working in the VO and other structures that previously existed. And so the aim is not to create a full data center infrastructure from top to bottom, but actually to organize and integrate national efforts in data and software towards integration within existing global structures. What I mean by that, and this is important, is that the reason we don't have so much structured data networks in Brazil is because of the cost. So if there is an infrastructure which is cheap, which gives a lot of return, which is easy to use, and to which we can integrate our science products, this is exactly what we are looking for. And I think this is the case for many other countries in the developing and in the developing world. So we focused on software and integration of data, and in particular, for the moment, on VAG astrophysics, which is my field of work. As you know, up to now, VAG astronomy is all proprietary data. So what we have been doing in the BSDC, which is my personal research interest, is to talk to all the collaborations in gamma ray astronomy and make the legacy database into our system so that we can import first maybe to the ASDC interface and then to other global networks like the VO and other structures. By the way, everything that we do is VO compliant so that it can reach the most number of tools available. And then, of course, as it's written here, there is the possibility of starting from this, creating something where all Brazilian community can integrate their work. So let me talk about a few concepts that are important for a BSDC. Without these concepts, it's not viable to talk about a Brazilian data center. So the first one is integration. The data center requires integrability to the largest possible extent with all the resources available within the community. Why is this important? So in Brazil, we don't have big facilities of our own. We participate in big research facilities, but we don't have those of our own. The big research facilities in which we participate, well, they have their data sharing structure and everything. But we have a set of small and medium telescopes which consume lots of our resources and in which many of our researchers work. This data just sits in our databases and nobody revisits it, or even I think that 50% only is ever used for research. So if we can integrate this data, which in its own has not so much value because it's small and medium telescopes like monitoring data, and we can put it into a database where it's easily integrated and easily identified by other users, this helps a lot to increase the impact of this data and continue funding of these infrastructures that we have. Even if you have this data integrated into a open, transparent database, or let's say open database, which is not very simple, not very transparent in the sense that you don't readily have all the data that you need of an object there. You have to go through the different catalogs and things like this. This data, which nobody knows about because it's a small telescope in Brazil or a small telescope in China or Russia, it gets lost. So integration is not enough. It has to be integration within transparency. Otherwise, our data is always going to be buried in the mass of larger facilities. So this is a very important distinction. And for this, interface is fundamental. We need an excellent interface for integration. And so to be built over the VO protocols is kind of a premise of that, but it's not enough. So as I just said, the novelty of the concept that we are trying to build for us is on the way the existing structures are combined to build new user interface experience and scientific resources which potentiate research, usability, and impact of data products. In countries where there is little resource for research, either you show that your data has good impact in science or you are dead. Now, I found this recently, this quote, and I read to you because I think it's an interesting thing. It's from a book by Henry Kissinger, where he discusses the problem of data in the information era, and I think it directly applies to us. So he says, facts are rarely evident on themselves. Their meaning, analysis, and interpretation depend on their context and relevance. As an increasing number of questions are treated as if they were of a mere factual nature, the premise that problems are not to be resolved by way of reflection, but rather to have their answers extracted from a fact sheet gets ever more established. But for information to become truly useful, it must be properly situated within a broader context, so that it can then emerge as effective knowledge. What does it have to do with us? It has to do with the fact that research in astronomy, I mean, there is no single instrument nowadays that can publish its data alone and pretend to understand or do novel research in an object, in an astrophysical object. So the data must be put into context, and in an easy way. The context for the data must come as immediately as the data. So you ask for the X-ray data on Paulo's favorite object, Markarian 421. You must be able to see instantly everything on Markarian 421, from all messengers, from all wavebands, without having to do another click. This is the context. Otherwise, you are going only to click on that aspect, on that catalogs, of whose context relevance you already know. So what's the novelty? So contextualization has to do with interface. And this is something that we have to build on. And I think the Open Universe Initiative is excellent because this goes with transparency. So this... accessibility is the second point. The data center must be open and accessible to the entire community of potential users, which includes all specialists concerned with the data, but also the entire interested citizen scientist community. I think this is a question of responsibility on the use of resources. This is very simple. We must use our resources responsibly. And so this implies, as we were discussing yesterday, this may imply different levels of end-user solutions to be considered. So maybe not a monolithic Open Universe Initiative, but diversified. I mean, this is something that could evolve a lot. And accessibility in this context means ease of access, powerful data query and visualization, plus integration tools and availability of the science-ready products. Doesn't mean that you don't have the lower-level data, but for sure the science-ready products you must have. So, as I said, accessibility is not only a democratic or responsible use of resources and instruments, which might also guarantee in the long run sustainability for a project, and, but it's a positive science requirement, as accessibility facilitates research, increase of data impact, and formation of human resources. So it's positive for us. And these are all key development factors for the emerging world. That's why Brazil is interested in it. And this is why the BSCDC supports the Open Universe Initiative and is born within the Open Universe discussions. So who we are and where are we now? I mean, we are new, we are starting, but we are trying to start in a new way already. So development started early last year or maybe late 2015. It's a data center that's being made to be hosted at the Brazilian Center for Research in Physics, where I work. It should come online with its first development during this year. It's going to come online small, so we are probably going to use the ASDC platform, hence the collaboration with Paulo, to upload our data and our products and software. It's being actually now under the discussion of the Brazilian Astronomical Society as a unified data center solution for Brazilian astronomy and astrophysics. This is extremely difficult to get. And I mean, we already got the attention from the Brazilian Astronomical Society, and we are going to present this. Now we are part of a commission that is trying to define infrastructure for Brazilian astronomy, and we are going to present this in August in the Brazilian Astronomical Society's national annual meeting. And it's also being proposed within a BRICS framework workshop as a possibility to be expanded to other countries that find themselves in similar situation to us regarding funding, socio-economical situation, and scientific development. So what have we done up to now? We have implemented 4 Brazilian science catalogs for some objects, particular objects. We are developing this complete VAG gamma ray catalog database, which is already something. I mean, it's going to be the first open VAG gamma ray database in the world. You cannot find open VAG gamma ray data anywhere. It's proprietary. So we are making the first step in dialogue with our colleagues to get that. So that is already a good contribution. And we are building software for the first interface for optical polarimetric data, which is another field of research which I'm interested in. So the relation between research and the work we do is evident. So I'll go very quickly to that. You have this. You can have this on the slides. Then it's all research done in Brazil that produces scientific catalogs, and which we uploaded in VO compliant tables within the visualization interfaces that are provided by ASI through the ASDC. So this is very important for our research. I mean, our research products are getting into the main scientific online avenues. I'm going to go very quickly to that. Now I want to give 2 views in the way I see when I think about proposing the BSDC to community. I propose it in this way. So for the user, the BSDC is conceived as an online interface integrating various resources and science-ready product databases into a single working frame or a single framework. It should allow for multiple data querying, cross-matching among catalogs and databases, plus some visualization and analysis functionality and products download. So it's the question of context. It's important. And a way that is very important to put the thing as well for the community is that it is a horizontal collaboration infrastructure. So we are not on top of anybody. We are not more than anybody. We don't own anything. We just provide the means so that people can integrate and talk. And this is the important thing. Otherwise, the community in my country wouldn't even be considering that, because there are all the diverse groups competing for visibility. So for the moment, all this data is going to go through the ASDC somehow, and that's the great help that Paulo is giving us. And what's the contributor view? So when I go to the people of my community and tell why it's interesting and why maybe they want to help this to develop, is because the BSDC is to serve as a data accessibility and interaction platform, servicing various data and resource providers into a single interface. By doing so, it shall improve data access and usage, increasing the scientific and educational impact of the information collected. So it complements and expanding on what current data resources can do, but does not substitute them. So the original providers continue there. We just put them in a new interface and maybe help them being accessed by users that would never go look for them otherwise. So I would say that for the public, what we want to do is to provide a window into the universe. For the scientists, a tool for data-driven research. I mean, if this is very effective, if it even becomes an online collaboration platform like a virtual research institute, which is kind of what the VO is in many levels, as we were seeing from the Canadian data center. And for the provider, it's a display of data and data products. So what's the national impact of the BSDC for Brazil? By building it in collaboration to other international platforms, we aim to give global insertion and expand accessibility to Brazilian space science data. And also we improve national access to global data and foster growth of space science research in Brazil and education. And now I want to stress one point that I think fundamental and unique on what's being said of the Open Universe in comparison to other initiatives that already exist. So it's a singular opportunity, in my sense, in my view, this is a personal view, for creating an instrument for development of space research and data-intensive science in countries of the developing and emerging world. And this is basically because of the power of fostering a development with a great authority and with strength in an international level that the UN has. So this is not banal, the possibility that we can have this. And the greatest factor of progress in science is dialogue and collaboration. And today we live in an era where all kinds of information are being integrated in revolutionary ways. I mean, the lectures we just saw in the morning, it's very impressive what, once people get their hands on the data, what they start doing, that's unpredictable. So we have to ask ourselves if we want to be out of this revolution. I mean, whatever we do with the open universe, I have the sense that it's going, if it's successful and well implemented, it's going to take us to places we could not predict. But I think that's where we want to go. That's what's happening with all kinds of data, much useless data sometimes. So science is extremely important nowadays. The culture where our society is being built. So let's put this data to be used also in this revolutionary way. So the impact would still be unpredictable, but at what cost would we be out of that? And that's what is my summary of what I think the Open Universe initiative is and why I like it. It can be the next step into a new model of high-level scientific data and tools sharing and integration. And I think this the most interesting factor about it. It's great potential and unpredictability. I mean, it can bring something really new. And so I'm going to go very quickly here just to show a panorama of the scene of Brazilian astronomy. Apart from our participation in some international telescopes, we also have a few small observatories in the country. And I leave as a back slide here as maybe there are questions, a summary of what my institute is, where I'm working, and where the BSDC is going to be implemented. Thank you very much.